Welcome to Pure Gold, Episode 1. My name is Frank Honus. I am super excited to be with you guys for just a brand new season of podcasting from Purity for Life. Pure Gold is an honest, no-nonsense take on what it means to live with sexual integrity. And each week, each podcast will offer practical tips and suggestions on how to strengthen your character, deepen your transparency, and grow in truth through the power of Jesus Christ. And like I said, I'm just so excited that to sort of be starting this brand new season of podcasting and sharing really what I believe to be the best of the best as it relates to recovery material. Pure Gold is really the most valuable stuff that I've learned in my recovery over the last 10 years. It's really the greatest lessons, like I said, the greatest lessons, the greatest truths, principles and tips and techniques and very practical stuff that I want to share with you in this podcast. And it doesn't carry a price tag, which is really good to know. What it does carry, though, it carries blood, sweat, and tears, and the commitment and the work that's taken place over the last 10 years of my recovery. That is what I want to pass on to you in more of a shortened format than our previous podcast from Purity for Life, where we had lots of interviews and we would often have interviews and longer, deeper topics that we would jump into, which are great and awesome. But I wanted to start something a little bit more practical, a little bit more, maybe digestible. Is that a word? Easier to digest, right? Easier to sort of, listen to and intake, and sort of, just allow it to impact you in a more direct way. So I hope that's what I hope you'll be able to enjoy Pure Gold, and I want to credit my wife, Tracy Honus, my wife Tracy, for really giving me and helping me with the name, and my friend Dan DeRosiers. You also were a huge part of that. In deciding on the name and the direction of the podcast. So thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Dan, for your help developing Pure Gold. So what I want to do for episode 1 is just sort of jump into a little bit of, again, what's behind this podcast, what's behind the name, and really what is Pure Gold going to be all about. And what I thought it would be interesting to do, though, is to take a little bit of a different angle and talk about, as it relates to gold. This, like I said, this podcast is the very best of the best, what I think is the most valuable stuff that I've learned. And not just, and again, going back, not just lessons that I've learned, but also things, not just tips for myself, but tips from purity coaches and mentors of mine that I've followed and really learned from throughout the years. So it's some really good material. And so when you think of the word gold, I wanted to share I wanted to share several qualities of what gold is, actual real gold. And I don't know if you've ever thought about how valuable gold is. I think that's sometimes where our mind kind of stops is, wow, well, gold, it's really, really valuable. Well, why is it valuable? Because that's what I want you guys to think about as you listen to this podcast and you allow this podcast to impact you, is what makes these principles, what makes these tips so valuable, what makes them worth so much. And so let's look back a little bit at some of the chemical values, what makes gold so valuable chemically. And I thought this was interesting as I read this, and relating it to the material and to the topics that we're going to be talking about here on Pure Gold. So gold in itself cannot be destroyed by water. It doesn't rust or tarnish. Gold cannot be destroyed by time. Coins remain recognizable after thousands of years. And gold cannot be destroyed by fire. It takes a minimum of 1945.4 degrees Fahrenheit to melt gold. And just to sort of sort of, capitalize on those three there. Gold can't be destroyed by water. It can't be destroyed by time. It can't be destroyed by fire. So what I think you'll find akin to real gold is that these principles that I share with you, these tips that I share with you, are time tested, and they are true over the course of your entire life and over the course of your entire recovery. These are things that you need to implement each and every day, and will be really, really important for you to implement for your entire life. Because the reality is that this battle that we face, if you're in recovery from a sexual addiction, if it's pornography, if it's fantasy or masturbation, or same-sex attractions, or just sleeping around with anybody, whatever the sexual struggle might be, you will find that the tips that we talk about are things that need to be implemented every day and work every single day. And so super, super important. They will work even in the most highest pressure environments, and the times that it is the most difficult to put these things into place. Those are the times to put your recovery process into place and put these, the things we talk about, the tips and the strategies and, the tools to help you. So gold can't be destroyed by water, time, or fire. Gold doesn't need feeding like cattle. It doesn't need fertilizer like corn. It doesn't need maintenance like printing presses. As a metal, gold is uniquely malleable. There we go. I was able to say that word. Malleable. It spreads out without cracking. And again, these tips, these strategies, the things that we share on this podcast are things that have been tested and by many, many people that just work and can be used and used and used again. Just like the real material of metal is malleable, it spreads, it stretches without cracking, it's very resistant, it's very ductile, it stretches without breaking. It is beautiful. Just ask any bride, right? And it's rare. All the gold ever found, this is kind of a neat little interesting fact, all the gold ever found would only fill 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So just like the real material of gold, that how rare that is, these tips that we share are tips that aren't necessarily things you'll just see, you'll hear on Sunday morning from your pastor, right? Or maybe you'll hear in a small group. I mean, this is specific stuff for specific struggles, and it's really, really good stuff, and maybe not even stuff that you've ever heard before. So to some degree, this is pretty rare material, and it's super, super helpful material. There's no superstition here. It's just common sense. Gold has the ideal chemical properties to serve as money and a good store of value. Just as aluminum is good for making aircraft, steel is good for building structures, uranium is good as nuclear fuel, and paper is good for making books. We don't print books on aluminum or build skyscrapers out of paper. Every element has its ideal use. And so, again, gold has many, many characteristics, many of which I just share with you. And that's what the tips that we share on this podcast are going to be super, super helpful for you as well. So I hope it's a huge, huge blessing for you. I just want to wrap up this first episode with this scripture, with this verse I was reading. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7 says, "But these only reveal the sterling core of your faith, which is far more valuable than any gold that perishes. For even gold is refined by fire." Your authentic faith, let me just stop there. I just want you to understand, and let me just read that verse again, but these only reveal the sterling core of your faith, which is far more valuable than gold that perishes. Even gold is refined by fire. Which I think you need to understand is that these tips, although incredible for your recovery and although very valuable and necessary, right? The tools in your tool belt are totally necessary, are just that. They are also tools. They are tips. They are strategies. They are not necessarily what you depend on, and they are not the answer for freedom and healing and wholeness in your life. That is a commitment that you have to make. That is a brokenness that you have to walk into. That is a place in your life where you say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to become the man or woman that God wants me to be. I'm going to do whatever it takes for my recovery. It starts with you. It really does start with you. All these tools, all the tools in the world, all the resources in the world cannot cannot make you, let me say that, cannot make you become a man of sexual purity or a woman of sexual purity. That starts with you. It starts with your heart. It starts with a decision that you make on your part. And so, again, just like the verse says here, your faith, the core of your faith, which is far more valuable than gold that perishes, your commitment to your recovery, your commitment to purity, far more valuable than any of these tips. These tips are valuable, but your commitment to purity and that place of I'm never going back is so much more valuable. For even gold is refined by fire. Your authentic faith will result, and I'll say, if I could paraphrase, your authentic recovery will result in even more praise, glory, and honor when Jesus, the Anointed One, is revealed. And so I just really feel so strongly about this podcast and what the Lord wants to do through Pure Gold and what He's going to be doing in the upcoming episodes. I feel like I have some really good topics picked out and tips to share with you. And keeping it on like I said, a shortened level, 10 to 15 minutes is my goal, and no longer than that. Even if we can, at 10 minutes or under, if possible. I just really want these to be practical, tangible for you in your journey for sexual purity. So I want to thank you guys for just listening and watching. This is on YouTube as well, and also all over social media and on iTunes. But listening and watching Pure Gold this week, episode 1, where just I sort of introduced what we're all about. So if you need to go back and listen, go back and listen. But I want to thank you. You can check out all of the resources, our former podcasts, all the way up to, we almost made it to 200, 196, Purity for Life. You can check out all the podcasts on pflhome.com. That's pflhome.com is where you check out all the resources, all the links, and lots of good stuff on there for your recovery. Also, some great contact forms that you can reach out to me, to my wife and I. If you need help, if you're a spouse of a struggler and you need help in your recovery, or you need help in your marriage, please feel free to reach out to my wife. Reach out to me if you're struggling. We would love to help you in whatever way possible. And like I said, follow us all on social media. We're all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, make sure you rate and review the podcast. It's super helpful for us. Please go onto iTunes, give us a rating and a review. Give us lots of stars, and let us know how we're doing and what you think of the podcast. So, again, thank you so much for joining this brand new season of podcasting from Purity for Life. It's called Pure Gold, and it is the best of what I've learned, what I can offer you just in my own journey, and what I've learned from purity coaches and leaders along the way, to help me become the man that I'm trying to be today, a man of wholeness, of purity, of integrity, and just the man that He wants me to be. So, love you guys. Thanks for all your support, and we appreciate you. Again, head over to pflhome.com if you need more support and encouragement, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining. God bless.